The Oscar-winning actor appeared to get into a small confrontation with photographers while on the red carpet for the May 19 premiere of his film, Highest to Lowest, during the 78th Annual Cannes Film Festival. Prior to the exchange, captured on video, Denzel, 70, was talking to Coast, our $1 AP Rocky, as a line of photographers appear to call their names. As director Spike Lee walked over to speak to the rapper, Denzel turned his attention to a photographer before walking in his direction and seemed to have a heated conversation with him as the photographer appeared to laugh and grab his arm. The Equalizer star then appears to mouth the words stop it," while pointing at one photographer directly before he is seen releasing his arm and walking away. Denzel Washington, a titan of the screen, a man of quiet power and dignified presence. Known for his commanding performances and stoic nature, Denzel had always been the type to let his work do the talking, but on this particular evening, as he stepped out at the Cannes Film Festival, a confrontation would unfold that even he couldn't have scripted. Denzel had just arrived at the premiere of a highly anticipated film. As he exited the sleek black vehicle, all cameras turned to him. The crowd erupted in cheers, the festival's energy heightened by the mere sight of him. Clad in a classic black tuxedo, his stride steady and confident, Denzel made his way down the red carpet, but barely moments into his appearance, something shifted. The atmosphere grew tense, subtle at first, like the calm before a storm. Paparazzi, always teetering between obsession and aggression, jostled for position. Shouts pierced the air. Denzel, this way, look here. The barrage of commands was deafening, but one photographer crossed an invisible line too close, too aggressive. Witnesses later said it was a clash of egos and territory, a moment when even a veteran like Washington had to draw a line. There was a sudden stop in his stride, his eyes narrowed, his demeanor sharpened. Words were exchanged. The moment, caught partially on video, spread like wildfire. The internet quickly did what it does best: speculate, analyze, and exaggerate. Was Denzel angry? Had he stormed off? Some reports even suggested he left the festival early, a claim that would soon be dispelled, but the question lingered: what really happened that night? Those close to the actor were quick to speak. A representative stepped forward, issuing a firm statement. Denzel had not left Cannes due to the incident. He remained at the festival, attending events and fulfilling his schedule. The confrontation with the paparazzi, while unexpected, was brief and controlled. Yet the incident ignited conversations far beyond that carpet. What does it take to push a man like Denzel Washington to the edge? He's faced fame for over 4 decades, seen the evolution of Hollywood, endured the invasive nature of modern media, and still managed to maintain a near-impenetrable wall of grace, and yet even the most composed can reach a limit. For many fans, the red carpet moment became symbolic. A reminder that celebrities, no matter how poised, are still human. The incident wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a meltdown. It was a moment of boundary, setting in an environment that often ignores boundaries altogether. For Denzel, whose reputation has long been untarnished, this became less about confrontation and more about control. Not control over the narrative that's almost impossible in today's digital age, but control over his own space, his own dignity. The public's reaction was divided. Some saw him as justified, standing his ground against overzealous photographers. Others speculated further, hungry for scandal, but the truth rested somewhere in the quiet aftermath. The next day, Denzel appeared at a film screening, calm, smiling, unbothered. If the incident had weighed on him, he didn't show it. He took photos with fans, engaged in polite conversation with journalists, and kept his head high. It was vintage Denzel, steady, grounded, unshaken. The message was clear without being said. The moment on the red carpet didn't define him. Still, this wasn't just about one actor and one night. The Cannes incident reopened a broader dialogue about celebrity privacy and media aggression. For years, the dynamic between celebrities and paparazzi has been one of tense coexistence. Red carpets may seem glamorous, but behind the curtains lies a volatile dance of access and exposure. For someone like Denzel, who rarely makes waves off screen, this incident felt like a rare glitch in an otherwise measured public life. Hollywood insiders came forward, some supporting him, others dissecting the scenario for headlines. What struck a chord with many was the nature of the confrontation, that it wasn't about ego or entitlement, but respect. Denzel's gesture, as seen in snippets of footage, wasn't aggressive, it was assertive. A raised hand, a sharp look, a few firm words. There was no shouting, no scene, no storming off, just a man demanding space in a moment of chaos. But when you're Denzel Washington, even silence makes noise. The narrative spun fast. Social media lit up with memes, opinions, and amateur lip readers trying to decipher his exact words. A few outlets tried to build a controversy where there wasn't one, yet others came to his defense. Fellow actors shared anecdotes of Denzel's professionalism, his calm, his refusal to entertain unnecessary drama. In an industry often fueled by frenzy, his restraint was, ironically, what made the incident headline worthy. This wasn't his first brush with the press, but it was perhaps the first time in recent memory that a private moment became a public storm. Still, true to form, Denzel didn't feed it. He didn't do an interview, didn't post a cryptic message online, didn't even acknowledge the media coverage. Instead, he let his actions and, more importantly, his inaction speak volumes. That level of composure is rare in a time when every celebrity misstep is dissected endlessly online. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Cannes continued. Films premiered, celebrities paraded, the red carpet rolled on, but for those who had witnessed the Denzel moment, something lingered. It wasn't scandal, it wasn't rage, it was clarity, a reminder that even in the glitz of global cinema, respect isn't optional. It's expected, and when it's not given, even the calmest man in the room can push back. In the days that followed, more video angles emerged. One showed the photographer in question nearly stumbling into Washington's path. Another captured the security team quickly diffusing the situation. These clips painted a fuller picture not of conflict, but of collision, a clumsy moment, poorly timed, quickly corrected, Denzel's reaction. Understandable, predictable even, if anything, the incident showcased the unshakable aura he carries. Even when pushed, he doesn't explode, he responds, he reclaims the space around him with a quiet but unmistakable authority. Fans flooded social media with support, hashtags trended, tributes poured in, protect Denzel at all costs. One user wrote, "He's a national treasure," said another. The consensus was clear whatever happened that night, Denzel handled it with more grace than most could muster. And in an age where celebrity tantrums often steal the spotlight, his composed response became a lesson in control, but beneath the public spectacle lay something deeper. The Cannes incident hinted at the cracks in celebrity culture, the constant pressure, the loss of privacy, the unrelenting spotlight. For someone like Denzel, who's mastered the art of balance, that night was perhaps a rare reminder that even the strongest need space to breathe. And that asking for that space or even demanding it isn't a flaw, it's a right. In time, the incident faded from the trending charts, other headlines took its place, but for those who paid attention, it wasn't about a confrontation. It was about character. Denzel Washington, once again, had managed to turn an ordinary moment into something extraordinary, not with performance but with presence, not with noise but with silence, and in doing so, he reminded the world that real power doesn't need to shout. It simply stands its ground calmly, firmly, and without apology. Denzel Washington's moment remained subtly etched into the atmosphere of the festival, not because it was scandalous, but because it was rare. Rare to see someone so respected, so composed, encounter the raw edge of celebrity exposure and still navigate it with grace that wasn't performative, but deeply authentic. That subtle exchange on the carpet was not about rage or spectacle, it was about humanity. The kind that often gets stripped away in the curated, glittering images beamed across the world from Cannes. Back home in the United States, talk shows and entertainment news panels picked up the story with varying tones. Some approached it with curiosity, others with glee, and a few with genuine concern for how the pressure of constant surveillance affects even the most seasoned professionals. Experts weighed in on how paparazzi behavior, while normalized in many places, had become more intense in global events where stars from all corners of the industry converge. Cannes, after all, isn't just about films, it's about the aura of cinema and, for better or worse, the personalities that sustain that aura. For Denzel, that aura has never relied on tabloid antics or orchestrated drama. His appeal has always stemmed from integrity on and off screen. Whether portraying deeply complex characters in films like Training Day, Fences, or The Equalizer, or speaking candidly in interviews about faith, responsibility, and legacy, Denzel carries with him a sense of moral gravity. So, when fans saw him check a photographer in the middle of a public appearance, many interpreted it not as an outburst, but as a boundary that had to be drawn. The photographer involved never gave a statement, but the media's magnifying glass eventually moved on. That's the nature of the digital age. Virality is swift and fleeting. Still, the moment sparked conversations in Hollywood that didn't just fade. Several stars quietly echoed similar sentiments in later interviews. Comments about needing space, about the importance of professionalism on both sides of the lens. One actress who had attended Cannes with her film team mentioned offhandedly in a podcast that she'd seen Denzel later that evening, calm and collected, chatting with fellow actors, laughing even. "He's the same Denzel we all know," she said. What happened on the carpet wasn't even a blip to him. And that, perhaps, is what separates Washington from many of his contemporaries. He doesn't hold on to moments that don't matter. He doesn't fuel speculation with cryptic tweets or Instagram stories. He doesn't feed the machine. Instead, he continues forward. A few days after the festival, he was spotted in Los Angeles attending a private screening event. No press, no fanfare, just work. That's always been his compass. The work. Directors and co-stars have often described Denzel as intensely focused, respectful, and deliberate. He approaches each role with the precision of a craftsman and the soul of a philosopher. And he brings that same focus to his public life, careful not to give away too much, cautious about how the spotlight is handled, which is why the Cannes moment became such a ripple. It was a break in his rhythm, a rare look at the man behind the curtain asserting himself when the line was crossed. But the story isn't just about one actor and one festival. It's about the broader conditions that breed such moments, the cameras that hover too close, the flashing lights that don't pause for breath. The unspoken expectation that public figures must remain accessible at all times. It's a flawed equation, one where human reaction is often penalized and silence is misunderstood. Yet Denzel's response turned that equation on its head. He didn't apologize because there was nothing to apologize for. He didn't escalate. He just stood firm. There's something profoundly powerful about that, especially when fame, in its current form, often demands performative vulnerability or curated controversy. In contrast, Washington's presence reminds us of a time when reputation was built on work ethic, consistency, and grounded values. That night on the red carpet, what we saw wasn't a confrontation in the tabloid sense. It was a collision between old-school grace and the modern machinery of fame. Journalists close to the entertainment beat noted how quickly the narrative tried to pivot, first labeling it as an outburst, then walking it back once the full context became clearer. Some media outlets corrected their early coverage. Others moved on without clarification, but the real takeaway wasn't in the corrections. It was in the pause that followed, the collective exhale that reminded both the media and the public that even those we idolize are still entitled to personal boundaries. For fans of Denzel, the moment became a footnote in his career, not because it defined him, but because it reinforced who he is, someone who chooses dignity over drama, someone who doesn't play the fame game by its current rules. And someone who, even under pressure, doesn't lose himself. That kind of consistency is increasingly rare. As the weeks passed and Cannes faded from the cultural spotlight, new premieres emerged. The internet found its next viral distraction. But for those who reflect more deeply on what it means to exist in the public eye today, Denzel's red carpet moment remained instructive. It wasn't just about celebrity conduct, it was about self-respect in a space that often denies it. About strength that doesn't rely on volume, about boundaries that don't need to be screamed to be heard. Friends of the actor, speaking anonymously to major publications, revealed that Denzel rarely even mentioned the incident afterward. To him, it was a brief moment in an otherwise extraordinary evening. He'd come to Cannes to celebrate cinema, to support storytelling, to honor the craft. That mission hadn't changed, and so he moved forward, carrying the same clarity that has long defined his career. In a way, that night was cinematic in its own right, a brief, unscripted scene in the life of a man who spent decades mastering his own narrative. There were no rehearsals, no lighting setup, no retakes. Just real emotion, captured in real time. And in that scene, Denzel played the only role he's ever played flawlessly, himself. Not long after Cannes, news broke that Washington would be returning to the stage, reviving his love for theater in an upcoming Broadway production. It was a reminder that his heart still beats for the rawness of live performance, where connection is direct and immediate. There, in the quiet hum of an audience hanging on every word, there are no paparazzi. No flashbulbs, just the art. That's the space where Denzel feels most at home. Fans looked forward to his return to the stage, and anticipation built once more. The Cannes moment, once loud and scrutinized, faded into memory like the afterimage of a camera flash. What remained wasn't the noise, but the calm after it, the stillness of a man standing in his truth, refusing to be baited, refusing to be anyone but himself. In the years to come, this red carpet incident may not even make the highlight reels of his career. But for those who were paying attention, it offered a rare look at the real pressures behind the curated glamour. And in Denzel Washington's quiet stance, we saw not a celebrity acting out, but a man showing up. Firm, present, unapologetically human. Through it all, Denzel continued doing what he's always done, pursuing excellence. The same man who brought Malcolm X to life, who won Oscars, who directed, who mentored, who inspired. He walked that carpet not to make a scene, but to be part of a greater one. And when the moment demanded clarity, he gave it, not through spectacle, but through simple, unmistakable presence. In the end, the world didn't see a fall from grace. It saw grace under fire, the kind that doesn't crack under pressure, but shines quietly through it. And maybe that's what we all needed to be reminded of, that dignity isn't loud and strength doesn't always come with a roar. Sometimes it's just a look, a pause, a boundary drawn with calm precision. And in that moment, under the glaring lights of Cannes, Denzel Washington didn't just act, he didn't pretend, he didn't perform, he lived authentically, boldly, and with the kind of dignity that only a lifetime of experience can earn. The world watched, speculated, debated, but he kept walking, and that walk, more than anything else, told the real story.